Ladies and gentlemen, the following segment of the podcast is presented exclusively by Hillsdale College, now in its 175th year. Hillsdale is a truly independent institution where learning is prized and intellectual enthusiasm is valued. Thank you for listening, and my sincere appreciation to Hillsdale for their sponsorship.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Welcome it is to the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in tonight for the great one. Really an honor to always fill in for him, and nice to be with you. We've got a lot to talk about tonight, including the House Coronavirus Oversight Panel has just come out asking 5 different companies to return loans meant for small businesses. That's right. The House Oversight Committee's new Select Coronavirus Oversight Panel has now sent officially 5 different letters to companies today asking them to return the loans they received from the Paycheck Protection Program, also known as PPP. This was obviously set up during the pandemic to aid struggling, keyword, small businesses. The letters have now asked each of the companies to, quote, immediately return the loan given out under the program so that these funds may be used to support truly small businesses that are struggling to survive during the coronavirus crisis, the move which stands as the first official action taken by the newly created oversight panel comes amid an outcry over how the funds have been distributed. With some loans going to chain restaurants, one of them we saw was Ruth's Chris Steakhouse, which took a beating public opinion-wise. Then you had Shake Shack giving their money back, and the list goes on and on. Then you had publicly traded corporations that had hundreds of millions of dollars in their bank accounts that got these loans. People were furious. Now, while the loans going to publicly traded companies have been just a small fraction of the money going out the door, they have generated outsized media scrutiny, some people claim. A list of which private companies got the money has also been released by the Small Business Association Administration, I should say. Now, the companies that received the letters are MeMedX Group, Evo Transportation Energy Services, Universal Stainless and Alloy Products, Quantum Corporation, and Gulf Island Fabrication. The letter from the government states, unfortunately, many large companies were able to utilize this program and obtain PPP loans that were intended for small businesses. Some of the companies returned these funds amid widespread public outrage. However, there are other companies, including yours, still have not returned these funds. Now, the panel has set a deadline of Monday for each company to notify it as to whether it will return the funding. If a company opts not to do so, the panel requests that the company produce documents and communications related to the loan. Quote, if you choose not to return some or all of these funds, we request that you provide by May the 15th, 2020, all documents and communications between your company and the Small Business Administration and the Department of Treasury relating to the PPP loan. And 2, between your company and any financial institution relating to the PPP loan, including all applications for a loan. Now, the newly established panel has become a source of conflict on Capitol Hill. House Republicans are now accusing Democrats of using it as a way to launch partisan attacks against the administration and arguing that it is unnecessarily giving other oversight mechanisms already in place just another pain in their rear end, basically. Now, let's be clear. The Paycheck Protection Program was meant to help small businesses. That has been scrutinized by many members in both parties. Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin said the Treasury Department will audit all Paycheck Protection Program loans of more than $2 million. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi last week named Democratic members to the, quote, panel, which will be chaired by Jim Clyburn in South Carolina, a South Carolina Democrat. House GOP leader Kevin McCarthy of California moved this week to appoint Republican members. Now, the letters are signed only by Democratic members of the panel. House GOP whip Steve Scalise, the top Republican on the Select Committee, condemned this move this afternoon, calling it, quote, outrageous, and saying that he hopes Democrats will change course. It is outrageous and telling that the first action the committee Democrats have taken is blindly sending harassing letters to individual companies that follow the law to keep their workers on the payroll, Steve Scalise said in a statement. Secretary Mnuchin has already stated that the Treasury Department is looking into all companies who have received loans through the overwhelming successful PPP funds, Scalise added, saying with a large-scale audit underway, this action by Democrats represents dangerous government intimidation that could cause more widespread layoffs at a time when we should be trying to keep American workers on the payroll. The panel said that in its insurance requests to return this money, it focused, quote, on targeting companies that are public, have market capitalization of more than $25 million, have more than 600 employees, and sought and received small business loans of $10 million or more. All right, let's break this down for a second. If you work for a company and there's 600 employees or 601, right? Because the Democrats are saying we're going to nail companies that got money that had more than 600 employees, that had more than $25 million on hand, and receive loans of $10 million or more. If you lose your job, does that matter to you if you were a big company or working for a big company or a small company when you lost your job? Serious question here. Does it really matter? Because I would argue it doesn't. You look at these unemployment numbers that came out. If you're on that list of those who are unemployed, who've been laid off, who've been furloughed, or whatever it may be, I guarantee you, I promise you, it doesn't matter to you if the company that laid you off was big or small. If you still have a job, I don't think you care if your company is, quote, big or small. And what the Democrats are now doing is they're attacking larger companies that employ more people that, by the way, usually pay a lot more taxes. Now, if you abused it, that's different. And that's why we should have a checks and balance and an audit system. I'm in favor of that. I want to make that clear. I'm totally in favor of that. What I am not in favor of, let me make this clear, is just picking on companies that have been successful because you believe that 600 employees is not a, quote, small business. Now, we're also only picking on people for a certain amount of money that they borrowed. Just because you borrowed a lot of money in the PPP program doesn't mean that you're committing a fraud. They have now arbitrarily chosen a number that they now say is a number that they disagree with. And again, this is arbitrary. The Democrats have decided that if it's this much money, then we're going to come after you, and we're telling you have to give the money back. If you're $1 below their number, they're not even sending you this letter. And this letter, I would argue, is absolute harassment at the hands of the Democrats in a time when we should not be harassing anybody. The third point that Steve Scalise makes, which I think is the most important point right now, is what is going to happen from this is you're going to have companies that are then going to lay off people. And if they did get a lot of money, okay, even if they are keeping a lot of people employed, what they're going to do with that is they're going to say, all right, let's just assume we're going to have to give this money back, and they're going to want it in 24 hours like they did today, right? You got to give it back by Monday, which is an insane deadline. Let's go ahead and lay everybody off on Monday, and we'll just be ready to give the money back because we're assuming our letter's coming soon. We know what the criteria is. If I own a business and I look at this criteria that the Democrats have put out, again, the Democrats have said they are focused on targeting companies that, quote, are public. So now you're evil if you're a public company, publicly traded. That doesn't make any sense. Have market capitalization of more than $25 million, which, by the way, is not a lot of money if you have a massive overhead and warehouse and manufacturing or whatever it may be. $25 million is not very much. I'm a small business owner, okay? I own a restaurant. I own a gun range and a gun store. I can tell you when you have a 25,000 square foot facility, which we have, it is not hard to get up to into the millions quickly. And I'm a genuine small business. The idea that if you've got $25 million, that can disappear in a matter of months or days or weeks, depending on what your overhead is. The idea that if you have 599 employees, you didn't get this letter from the Democrats, but if you have 600 or more, you got the letter, is, again, an arbitrary number that makes no sense. And the idea that if you received $10 million in theory sounds like an insane amount of money. If you have 600 employees, it is not. Do a normal payroll of 600 employees over 2.5 months, because remember, this is all based on 2.5 months. So if you're looking at at the numbers, and again, I'm a numbers guy. I don't look at the emotional crap that they put out. I look at the actual numbers. $10 million spread over 2.5 months is easy number for you to hit with rent, utilities, and payroll. 25% rent if you have a major business in a nice area, that is not a hard number to get to. Not a hard number to get to at all. Everybody knows this. So what the Democrats really did, while, by the way, they're not working. Remember, Nancy Pelosi has not called them into session, but they had enough time to target people this way, which is disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting. They're not in Washington, but they're sending out these harassing letters. That's what they are doing, sending out harassing letters to make it look like they're doing something. Choosing arbitrary numbers that they deem as it now makes you an evil company. How does this help anybody? And I go back to their evil company numbers. Any company right now listening to me that sees or hears about this, they're going to look at their loan and they're going to say, okay, crap, we're a public company. Oh, gosh, we have $25 million in capitalization. Oh, my gosh, we have more than 600 employees. Oh, my gosh, we got a loan of more than $10 million. Get ready, because if you work at that company, come Monday, these owners are going to play defense, and they're going to lay people off left and right because they're assuming that new letter is coming. They are assuming that the letter is going to show up and that they are going to be turned into spawn of Satan company. And they are actually going to let people go. It will happen. I want to get your phone calls in here and see what you think about all this. 1-877-381-3811. Is it fair to treat these companies this way? And again, if you're laid off, I don't think it should matter who lays you off. Being laid off is being laid off. Keeping somebody employed is keeping someone employed. You shouldn't play favorites based on under 600 employees or over 600 employees, because when you're laid off, every layoff should matter the same in the eyes of the government. It's not like you're somehow less broke because you got laid off from a bigger company compared if you got laid off from a smaller company. Being laid off is being laid off. Being unemployed is being unemployed. And these arbitrary numbers just to try to score political points is disgusting. 1-877-381-3811. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one, Mark Levin. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
If you and your family are finding yourself at home with extra time on your hands these days, I know an excellent way to fill it. Take a free online course from Hillsdale College. Hillsdale offers dozens of online courses on topics including the U.S. Constitution, economics, history, and literature. Right in your own home, on demand, and absolutely free of charge. Hillsdale students learn the inspiring history of America. Now you can too, with Hillsdale's newest free online course, The Great American Story, A Land of Hope. Learning and teaching our children about America's past is essential for preserving liberty in the future. Register right now to take this free online course, The Great American Story. It's a production masterpiece, and it paints a picture of America as a land of hope founded on high principles. This course and dozens of others on a variety of topics are available to you and your family for free right now. Go to levinforhillsdale.com, Levin for Hillsdale.com.
Welcome back. It is the Mark Levin Show. Ben Ferguson filling in for the great one tonight. Nice to have you with us. So the